The Cameroon government issues a communique commending Cameroonians for their political maturity while announcing measures to ease all the measures taken to dissipate the CRM-induced tense political atmosphere of September this year. As the countdown to the official proclamation of the results of the regional elections narrows, Cameroonians look up with anxiety to the putting in place of the organs of the regional councils. Sports and Physical Education Minister makes an umpteenth outing at the OLEMBE and OMNISPORT stadiums, announcing that all the SHAN infrastructures will be placed at the disposal of the Confederation of African Football come December 15, 2020. Those are our lead stories. Hello and thanks for joining us on the 7:30 News. I am Ben Menopufong.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
You're welcome once again, and we open with this government communique, and it reads, the government of the Republic announces to the national and international public that the regional elections convened on 7 September 2020 by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, were held nationwide on Sunday, the 6th of December 2020 in a peaceful and transparent manner. Despite threats in the northwest and southwest and the assassination of a municipal councillor in Widicum by terrorists, as well as calls for election boycott by political parties losing steam or having an insurgent agenda, the voter turnout everywhere was satisfactory. The government would like to commend the Electoral College or the electoral colleges and beyond them, the Cameroonian people for the maturity it has once again demonstrated and its determination to pursue the democratic experience initiated by the head of state and his relentless march towards progress and prosperity of our beloved and beautiful country. The government also congratulates the defense and security forces of their professionalism and determination in implementing the relevant measures taken by the head of state to ensure the proper conduct of the elections. Going forward, the government will strive, with the support of all Cameroonians of goodwill, to embark on the effective establishment of regional councils, in particular the special status provided in the northwest and southwest regions in accordance with the recommendations of the major national dialogue. Furthermore, the government informs the public that with their effective holding of regional elections and the prevailing calm in the country, the decision has been taken to ease the measures taken to foil the insurgency launched by the CRM on 22 September 2020. Nonetheless, the legal proceedings initiated against the perpetrators and organizers of the insurgency will continue. Several persons arrested within the context of the insurgency have already been released. Others will be released as the legal proceedings uphold and depending on their degree of involvement and the threat they pose to society. The situation of the CRM leader and his party will continue to be closely examined by the competent judicial and administrative authorities, and related developments will be communicated to the public in due course. The head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, has always reaffirmed his attachment to dialogue and consultation in the search for solutions to the problems facing our country. Furthermore, he has been working tirelessly to put in place a peaceful democracy and social climate conducive to the development of fruitful initiatives for nation building and progress in our country. Such is the case with the implementation of the decentralization process, which has been completed with the holding of the 6th December 2020 regional elections that will enable our compatriots nationwide to fully participate in the management of their affairs at local levels. Economic recovery against the difficult backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic remains a priority for the President of the Republic, and at this year-end period, he urges all Cameroonians to calmly go about their activities and be ready to enthusiastically host the 2021 African Nations Championship, the CHAN 2021. The President of the Republic further invites Cameroonians to continue exercising great caution in the face of the lingering COVID-19 pandemic, despite our country's efficient response, which has been lauded by WHO. Done at Yaoundé on the 8th of December 2020 and signed the Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson, René Emmanuel Sadi. And with me in the studio to comment on this important release from the government is Editor-in-Chief, Benin Bumagana. Good evening, Benin.
Good evening to you, Ben.
And as it transpires from the government's communique, Cameroonians, despite all the threats, turned out with enthusiasm on the voting day to cast their votes for the regional council elections.
As a matter of fact, Cameroonians showed, Ben, that they know what they want. They know exactly what they were going for. Cameroonians demonstrated a great desire for change, and this is the change that we are talking about, putting in place a regional council that will be able to oversee the affairs of the people. Of course, if you, from the comment you just read, we get indication that there was an assassination of a municipal councillor in Widukum by known state armed groups, as well as calls for election boycott by political parties. But the people did not heed to any of them. Of course, you know the situation in Kotunja in the northwest region. You know the situation in the Bui for the past weeks. But the pictures we saw a lot of enthusiasm, the people going to vote, showing that they want to change. And then Lebialem in the southwest region, somebody said, who could have imagined that in Lebialem, the council members would come out in their numbers to vote Meme, and then in the Dian division. He all showed the people who want change, and they came out in their numbers. The council members came out in their numbers to vote, and nothing could stop them. Enthusiasm, yes, Ben, because they want to see a change. Expectation, yes, because they want to see the people that will run the regional council, and then anxiety to see what these people will bring in.
And another praiseworthy note was, of course, the various partners that put their hands together to ensure that this process runs from start to finish without any hitch. I'm thinking there about Elekam, I'm thinking there about the Minister of Territorial Administration and the other stakeholders.
Of course, if you saw the way Elekam worked even before that, they made sure that everything was done accordingly. The ballot papers ready. They asked for the different colors from the different political parties. Even before the day of the election, they made sure that election material went to the different regions. And this time, it was quite interesting, Ben, because those living with disabilities could have access to these material and could even use them. That is something that Elekam officials did, and they stayed on all through. And then talking about administrative units in the different regions, the divisions and in the subdivisions. If you follow the pictures that came in during the voting that was on Sunday, you notice that all the 10 regional governors were out there ensuring that everything went well. Governor Lele Adolphe Afrique in the northwest, for example, went through so many towns of the northwest. The same in the southwest, the same up in the Adamawa and up in the north. They were all involved. And at the end of the day, when the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, came out with a declaration, it was a brilliant summary of what came in from all of these administrative units. And so when they say it went on well, in a peaceful and transparent manner, it is because they had information from all the work that these administrators did in the different regions to be able to ensure that it came up peacefully. Then, talking about the forces of security and other, to ensure that there was peace. And actually, we got it, there was peace.
And that's not all, Benin. It is equally a proof that Cameroonians turned a deaf ear to the calls for insurrection and boycott of the polls.
No, of course, you know the story. Since September, when the political party called for Cameroonians to come out to march against institutions of the state, the first thing you need to appreciate of Cameroonians, Ben, in this case, is that nobody came out. We had calls from religious authorities, we had calls from traditional rulers, civil society actors, from politicians against this call. The government stood against it, the law was against it. A few persons came out and they were arrested. But over the time, they were released. The government asked that judicial proceedings against them be stopped, and several persons arrested within the context of the insurgency have already been released. Others will also be released as the legal proceedings unfold and depending on their degree of involvement and the threat they pose to society. So it shows you that even though some people came out, the government is still granting them plenty of liberty to let them go. But that also shows that Cameroonians are mature. September passed, nothing happened. October, November, here we are in December. And then that also is the strength of the President of the Republic, the head of state, Paul Biya, who has always reaffirmed his attachment to dialogue and consultation in the search for solutions to the problems facing our country. We should also say that with the coming days, by the 22nd, of course, the regional council will be put in place, the House of Chiefs will be put in place, the special status will be put in place. Something that started like a bleak picture finally is coming to clear light.
Benin Bumagana, Editor-in-Chief of the Television Newsroom, thanks for your input.
Thank you very much, Ben.
And we continue in this newscast to say that the northwest and the southwest regions of the country will be unique in their kind once the governing structures of the regions will be put in place. While the 8 French-speaking regions of the country will have just one regional council, the northwest and southwest regions will have regional assemblies comprising a House of Divisional Representatives and a House of Chiefs. As Ebenezer Akanga reports, this specificity is thanks to the putting in place of the special status that was granted by the major national dialogue.
The organs of the northwest and southwest regions are a regional assembly made up of 90 regional councillors elected for a 5-year term of office. It is the deliberative organ in the 2 regions. The regional assembly comprises 2 houses. The first is the House of Divisional Representatives, made up of 70 members elected by municipal councillors of the region. It is chaired by the President of the Regional Executive Council. The second is the House of Chiefs, made up of 20 members from among traditional rulers elected in accordance with the laws in force. It is chaired by the Regional Executive Council Vice President. The 2 houses shall meet separately on the same day, but they shall hold a joint meeting at the opening and closing of the session and when the agenda items relate to the approval of the Regional Executive Council Action Program, the validation of the Regional Executive Council Progress Report at the end of the financial year, and when circumstances so require.
And prominent in the special status granted to the northwest and southwest regions in the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities, there is the position of the Public Independent Conciliator appointed by a presidential decree. His role is incomparable with any other public office, and he mediates in matters that have not been ruled on by a competent court. Here is Kilian Dandifon with a breakdown of the functions of the Public Independent Conciliator.
The Public Independent Conciliator shall be a highly experienced personality with required integrity and proven objectivity, appointed by the President of the Republic for a 6-year term not renewable. His duties shall be incompatible with holding of a public office or employment or exercise of any professional paid activity. Functions: examining and amicably settling disputes between users and regional and council administrations, defending and respecting rights and freedoms with regard to the relationship between citizens and the region or the council thereof, designing and implementing measures to prevent and combat direct or indirect discrimination that affect users of regional or council services, ensuring that persons serving in the region or council administration comply with their ethical obligations, conducting any investigation on the functioning of the regional and council services at the request of 5 parliamentarians or 5 regional councillors, preparing a report on the functioning of the regional and council services.
And if the Northwest and Southwest regions will be unique in their institutional setup, the 8 other regions of the country shall all comprise just one regional council that shall constitute the deliberative organ of the 90 councillors. This presupposes that both the divisional representatives and the elected depositories of the traditional authority will act and interact in one single organ for the good and betterment of their respective regions. Constantine Baum reports on the composition of the regional councils in the 8 other regions of the country as contained in the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities.
Going by Section 276, the Regional Council shall reflect the various sociological components of the region. It shall ensure representation of the region's indigenous people, minorities and gender.
The Council as a whole, sitting as a deliberative organ, shall be the main policy-making body. The Regional Council shall settle regional matters by deliberation. It shall express an opinion whenever it is required by the laws and regulations, or at least by the request of the representative of the state.
The provisions of the functioning of the Regional Council are in Section 280, which points out that the body shall meet in ordinary session once every quarter.
The chairman presides the meetings of the Regional Council. He is being the face of the Regional Councils, represents the Regional Council in civil matters and in all matters concerning the court.
According to Section 282, the Regional Council shall have 4 committees, each headed by a committee member. The committees are Administrative and Legal Affairs and Standing Orders, Committee on Education, Health, Population, Social and Cultural Affairs, Youth and Sport, the Committee on Finance, Infrastructure, Planning and Economic Development, and the Committee on Environment, Regional Development, State Property, Town Planning, and Housing.
The Pan-African news magazine Jeune Afrique Économique has described President Paul Biya's leadership as focused and people-oriented. This is contained in a special edition of the magazine published by Blaise Pascal Talla and currently trending on the newsstands. Charles Ebune flipped through the 425-page publication and compiled this package.
257 pages of the 425-page publication is dedicated to the Major Opportunities Program of the New Deal administration, which clocked 38 years this year. 2 years into the current 7 years mandate, the publisher of Jeune Afrique Économique, Blaise Pascal Talla, in his editorial, paints the uncertain economic environment in which the country navigates, compounded by the coronavirus pandemic. The publication holds that the holding of the major national dialogue to ease tensions in the 4-year protracted troubles in the Northwest and Southwest regions are key milestones the government has undertaken to keep the Biya agenda truthful in the eyes of all Cameroonians. Other key events outlined in the magazine include the holding of the Higher Judicial Council meeting at the Unity Palace, chaired by President Paul Biya, which injected a new dynamism in the country's judicial system, and the holding of the regional council elections, which simply completed the decentralization process, according to Jeune Afrique Économique. Blaise Pascal Talla's news booklet on Cameroon is simply a sample of President Paul Biya's focused leadership for the development of Cameroon.
4 candidates will be vying for the top job at the Cameroon Music Arts Corporation, SONACAM, that comes up on December 12, 2020. The 4, Ate Bazar, Messi Ambroise, Jean-Pierre Essomé, and Wax Day, are currently engaged in a spirited campaign, trading their experience and savoir-faire to tilt the electoral scale in their favor. Emmanuela Vermeuil caught up with the 4 candidates, with whom she now explores how they intend to reform SONACAM if elected into office.
The race course is level as the 4 contenders on the starting line for SONACAM's top job battle for supremacy, with 30 years spent thrilling the audience with folkloric tunes in Cameroon and beyond. The journalist and musician is confident.
I have worked with artists in various capacities. I have a PhD which I defended on the promotion of Cameroon music on the social media. I have scientific knowledge on what and where it went wrong and what needs to be done for it to come back.
Makossa icon Jean-Pierre Sommet believes his success story as a marketer can valorize local talent and optimize musical gains.
I will be using my 33-year experience in management to solve the problems in Sonacam because author's right is plagued by managerial inabilities.
If the choice is set on a young, dynamic and visionary candidate, then Wax Day will take the crown. He provides a blend of the old and new generation for a better music corporation.
Over the past 10 years, I've been able to help a lot of artists to recover their rights. A case in point is Zangaloa in 2010. I'm coming with, the passion and the energy and the dynamism to expand the base of collections, but also to implement systems that are modern and digital. Very importantly, that we take care of the older people.
With a decade spent managing authors' rights, 38 years to promote the Bikutsi rhythm, Messi Ambroise is luring voters.
I have worked in the authors' rights organ for years and masters the terrain. Plus, I am free unlike other candidates who are workers. Sonacam needs a lot of presence of its leaders and I am one.
The countdown is on. Who will be the next president of Sonacam? December 12 will tell.
Promoting local social development is the focus of the 4th edition of the National Solidarity and Social Entrepreneurship Week, which is underway in Yaoundé. The main objective of the week is to mobilize the national and international community on the promotion of local social development such that they provide a collective and efficient response to the national demand for social assistance and protection to socially vulnerable. Yoti Kaleli Songa reports on the importance of the Solidarity Week.
Social actors advocating for socially vulnerable persons. The 4th edition of the National Solidarity and Social Entrepreneurship Week is afoot, and the goal is clear.
Promoting social inclusion of socially vulnerable persons.
To be sure that the specific needs of the socially vulnerable persons are taken into consideration.
An approach has been adopted in order to meet the needs of the vulnerable.
We are implementing a project of putting in place a social unified register, which is a database that will collect all the information and statistics concerning those vulnerable people in the 360 councils of Cameroon.
I urge all the partners to adhere to this action of beneficial social work in order to ensure the socio-economic reinsertion of a vulnerable person.
Discussions during this Solidarity Week will also apprise stakeholders of the stumbling blocks to national solidarity actions.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
There are over 700 active COVID-19 cases in Cameroon presently, all of them being taken care of by specialized health professionals. But where exactly are these COVID-19 patients and how are they being taken care of? Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Eric Tande, are at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with answers to these questions. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Ben Menopofong. When we continue informing Cameroonians that we have an increase in the number of persons tested positive for COVID-19 on a daily basis, most of them wonder, where are these active cases and how are they taken care of? We discussed that tonight with our guest, Dr. Eric Tande. He is a public health expert. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening, Baldwin.
We have noticed this continuous increase in the number of persons tested positive for COVID-19 with well over 700 active cases we have in the country. The question most Cameroonians would like to find out is, where are these active cases when we talk about over 700 active cases, and how are they taken care of presently?
Yeah, but then you know clearly that centers were created to take care for COVID-19 positive cases. Being it asymptomatic or symptomatic, they are being taken care of in health facilities that were identified and designed to handle these purposes. And again, even those who were advised to be quarantined or be in a confinement in their homes and do a follow-up, they are equally being taken care of. So all these active cases are under surveillance, and those who have more critical situations are being treated in designated health facilities, and asymptomatic cases are being advised and taken care of as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evitandi, for clarifying the public as to where exactly these active cases are and how they are being taken care of. If we want that the number of active cases reduced, the number should reduce in the country, we should simply continue respecting the outlined barrier measures by the government of Cameroon. By so doing, we shall not only limit the spread of this virus, but stop its spread in Cameroon. Back to you, Ben Menopufo.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, for those updates. And you are watching the 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV. We are broadcasting live from Yaoundé. Members of government have begun defending their budgetary allocations for 2021 before the Finance and Budget Committee of the Upper House of Parliament. Prior to the exercise, Finance Minister Louis-Paul Moutaze last evening defended the entire bill before the same members and before the same committee. Senate correspondent Charles Anyangwe has a roundup of activities at the Senate last night and today.
The first member of government to appear before the Finance and Budget Committee of the Senate was Louis-Paul Moutaze of Finance. He defended his 56.9 billion francs budget. Finance Minister stated his priority actions for 2021.
The recovery of resources to foster our economy, negotiate a new program with the IMF, and this we are going to do it from the beginning of the year.
Next on the line was the Minister of the Economy.
Promote private sector development and investment. And this is why we have a new tool, which is the National Development Strategy 2020-2030. It means a stronger state management in terms of public finance, stronger governance, and accelerating decentralization process.
To the Minister of State for Tourism and Leisure, Bello Boba Maigari, his envelope of about 9 billion francs will turn around, encouraging tourists to visit Cameroon.
Assuring the best conditions for visitors that will come in great numbers for AFCON and even Shan.
As concerns the Minister of State for Justice, Laurent Esso, emphasis on his ministry's budget of 60.5 billion francs will go to train staff, curb corruption, fight against prison overcrowding and judicial delays, among others. The night promises to be very long at the Senate.
And as I was announcing in the headlines in sports, the various football facilities that will host next month's African Nations Championship will be handed over to the Confederation of African Football (CAF) on the 15th of this month. The announcement was made in Yaoundé today by Sports and Physical Education Minister while on a routine visit to the Yaoundé OMNISPORT and the OLEMBE sites. And as Romeo Kenya reports, the minister noted with satisfaction the quality of work done on the presidential stand, the commentary booths, and the conference room.
Erected lighting system, surveillance cameras and public address system all intact around the annex stadia in OLEMBE. The pitches will serve as training grounds during Shan. While machines trim the turfs on a courtesy visit, the president of the local organizing committee of Shan 2020 is assured by Magiro officials no stone is left unturned. Professor Narcisse Molekombi then proceed to nearby 60,000 OLEMBE capacity sitter stadium to assess work in progress, though the main stadium is not shortlisted for Shan. A beautiful conference room endowed with up-to-date chairs and sound equipment, not leaving out a refurbished commentary booth for pressmen, is observed by the minister and his delegation at the Amadou Ahidjo Stadium. He also takes time to evaluate the level of works at the Brandish Presidential and VIP tribunes. Satisfied with the innovations, the sport boss has enjoined the stadium director to heighten work rate. The inspection visit is holding 1 week to the official handing over of the different sport facilities to CAF officials for the organization of CHAN in January.
And that's where we leave it for this edition of the 7:30 News. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow, 7:30.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.